Hello, everyone. Happy day one of percent day. We're officially done with our ratio and proportion unit, although you are going to use that same kind of thinking for some of this percent unit so they naturally flow into each other. But today we're going to just do, we're going to make sure that we're good converting from percents to fractions to decimals. And then we are going to do a lesson on estimating percents, which is super, super important. Okay. So what I would love for you to do is pause your video. And if you have a piece of paper, go ahead and write down these percents and then convert them to fractions into decimals. And then once you're done, unpause your video and check your answers with me and see how it went. Okay. Go ahead and pause your video. All right, so hopefully you took the time to do that. So I'm going to start by converting from percents to fractions because I think that's pretty straightforward here. So whenever we take our percent, remember percents are always out of 100. So we're literally just going to take our percent and put it over 100. The thing is, from that point, you have to reduce, okay? But remember that your calculator will do that for you. So you just use the ABC button to enter your fractions. So 100 ABC 100, and it will spit out to you the reduced fraction. Okay, so make sure you're using your calculator for that. So 45% is going to be 45 over 100. Again, that is going to reduce to 9/20. 4% is 4 over 100, which is 1/25. 1% is 1 over 100. That doesn't reduce at all. 37.5. Again, we put it over 100, but we don't want to have decimals inside of our fractions. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to scale this up by multiplying by 2. And by doing that, I'm going to get rid of this decimal because 37.5 times 2 is 75. And then 100 times 2 is 200. So these two things are equivalent. Now that I have 75 over 200, I can reduce this by 25, and that's going to give me 3/8 as my reduced answer. 110 over 100 is still the same process. So this is going to give us 5 goes into each. So that would give us 22 over 20, which then reduces to 11 over 10 as our reduced fraction. And then 1/2, we're going to do the same exact thing. Just because it's a fraction, don't let it mess you up. However, like I said up here, we don't want to have the fraction within the fraction here. So I'm going to multiply this again by 2 because 1/2 times 2 is 1 and 100 times 2 is 200. And now that is my reduced fraction. Okay, so now if we're converting from percents to decimals, remember we take the decimal point wherever it is. Okay, in this case, it's on the end, and we just move it 2 places to the left. So 100% would be 1.0. This guy would be 0.45. Be careful here. This is 0.04 because remember we're moving it 2 places. So then this would be 0.01. This is going to give us 0.375. This is going to give us 1.1. And then this 1/2 is 0.5%. So if I make it a decimal first, then I can see that I have to move the decimal point 2 places, which is going to give me 0.005. Okay? So if you have any questions on that, let us know. If you need to pause and write these down or correct your answers, please do that. And then come back with us and turn to page 3. I also want to point out that there's some notes on the bottom of page 2 to help you. Okay, so you don't have to keep watching the video. You can read through the notes if you want. All right. Okay. So now we're going to talk about estimating percents. So estimating is a really important skill to have in life, okay? And we estimate all the time without even realizing it. You know, if your mom drops you off at the mall and she says, "What time do you want me to come back and get you?" You estimate all the things that you have to do and you give her a time then, come back in 2 hours or something like that. If you're in a car and you're driving on the highway and there's another car that zooms right by you, you think, "Holy crow, that guy's going 80 miles an hour," right? That's your estimate, okay? When you step outside and it feels really cold to you, you estimate, "Wow, it's probably like 20 degrees out here," okay? So this is a really important scale. So where it says think of instances, I just listed a bunch, right? Weather, time, speed. We also estimate distance, right? If we're watching somebody golf and they hit the ball and it goes flying down the fairway, you estimate, right, how many yards it traveled. Money, we estimate money a lot. If somebody says, how much is your wallet? I'm probably not going to pull out my wallet and count every single dollar and coin. I'm probably just going to estimate, I got about 20 bucks in there. Okay. All right. I'm going to grab a new marker. So just give me a second here. Okay. So when working with percents, it's important that you are able to estimate with the benchmarks. Okay. These are common percents that you should be able to basically do in your head, okay, if the numbers are nice numbers. So to find 50% of a number, what you're essentially going to do there is divide by 2, or I'm going to write cut in half, okay? However you want to think of it, doesn't matter, but that's how you find 50% of anything. To find 25% of a number, there's a couple things you can do. You can divide by 4, which might be easy, might not, depending on the number. Or you could cut something in half and then cut that half in half. Okay, so I'm going to write cut in half twice. To find 10% a number, this one is arguably the most important. I want you to star that right on your page. To find 10% of a number, we are going to divide by 10, but the shortcut for that is that you're going to move the decimal point once to the left. Okay, and you're going to see this in action in just a minute. So then to find 5%, you're going to start by finding the 10%, and then you're going to cut that answer in half. So I'm going to write find 10% and then cut in half. To find 15%, you're going to find the 10% and the 5%, and you're going to add them together. So I'm just going to write add the 10% and 5% together. And then lastly, to find 20%, which is also, a frequent flyer, a percent that we use a lot. To find 20%, there's a couple things you can do. You can divide by 5, which again, may be easy, may not. Or you can find 10% and double it, right? Or multiply by 2. Again, sometimes the first one will be easier. Sometimes doing it the second way is easier. It just depends on the number. So now we're going to put some of this in action here. Okay. So I'm going to start with the number 200. Now 200 is a nice round number. It's got zeros, which is what we like. So to take 200 and find 50%, I divide it by 2 or cut it in half, and that's going to give me 100. To find 25%, I can either divide it by 4, or I can take this 100 and cut that in half, which will give me 50. The 10%, remember I said to move the decimal once to the left. So here's our decimal point. We move it one time. We get 20. And then the 5% is going to be half of the 10%, so that's going to give us 10. To find 15%, we add the 10 and the 5 together, and that's going to give us 30. And then to find 20%, you take the 10% and you double it or multiply it by 2 to give us 40. Okay? Now, we're going to do the same process with 36. But hopefully you're thinking to yourself, it's not too bad to cut 36 in half, or maybe to cut that in half, but 10% of 36 is going to give us a decimal. And if we're estimating, we don't want to be using decimals. We want the numbers to be nice and easy, like the number 200. So only because we're estimating, what we're going to do is we're going to round first. If you are not given a nice number, you're going to make it a nice number, okay? Now, there's a couple different things that you can round to, but you just have to be careful that you don't round to a number that's either much, much higher or much lower. For instance, if I have, $52 in my wallet and you say, how much do you have? it would not exactly be accurate if I said, oh, I have about $100. I don't really have about $100. I only have 52, right? So you have to be careful what you're rounding to. And you don't always have to round up. You can round down if that is a more accurate representation. So I'm going to take the number 36 and I'm going to round it to 40. 40 is a nice round number. It has a 0, which I like. It's even, okay? And it's pretty close to 36. Now I'm going to go ahead and do all these with the number 40. So it'd be great if you could pause your video and you try to fill in the chart and then unpause and come back to us and we'll see how you did. Okay, so 50% of 40 is going to be 20. 25%, I would cut that in half to get 10. 10%, I'm going to move the decimal once, which is 4. 5% is half of that, which is 2. 15%, we add those two together to get 6. And 20%, we double the 4 to give us 8. Hopefully that went okay. Once you're good with this page, go ahead and flip to the last page, which is page 4. All right, so now we're going to put this estimating to practice here. Now, the hard part about estimating when we're teaching it in school is normally when you're estimating, you're doing it in your head. That's the whole reason to be able to estimate, to make the math easy, to do it in your head. But if you do all this math in your head, then we can't see it. So we don't know if you're estimating correctly. Okay, so we do need you to show some work. It's not a lot, but we do need you to show some. So I'm going to write on my page the minimum amount of work that we want you to show in order to get full credit. So please make sure that you're copying down everything I am. Number 1 says you're shopping at Wet Seal and you see a hoodie that's $32.95 and it's on sale for 20% off. The key is that it says to estimate. It has to say estimate, approximately, something like that. Otherwise, you can't just go estimating everything. So be careful that you're looking for that key word. Okay, so $32.95 is not a nice number. So the first thing we want to do is we want to make it a nice number and we're going to round, okay? Now, you have to be careful when you're dealing with buying things because if we round down and then you estimate 20% off, you might end up not having enough money to pay for the hoodie that you're buying at the store, okay? So I always tell students that when you're buying something to round up. Now, rounding up to 40 is a pretty big jump from $32.95. So I'm actually going to round this to 35. Okay? Now, I'm trying to find 20% off. To find 20% off, the first thing we're going to do is find 10%. Well, 10% of 35, remember we just moved the decimal, is 3.5. And then to get 20%, I double that, which is $7. So our estimate of how much of a discount we're going to receive is $7. I write it outside of my problem with a label on it. Number 2, Laura is the 100th customer at Shop and Drop, and she wins the coupon for 15% off her entire purchase. If she buys $256.49 worth of groceries, estimate, there's that word that we love, how much money her coupon saved her. So we just want to figure out how much she's going to save. So again, we start with our number. This is an ugly number. So we want to round it to something nice. I'm going to round it up to 260. Okay, again, nice number, ends in a 0. To find 15% off, we first are going to find 10%, which we move the decimal once, and that gives us 26. Then we find 5%, which is half of 10. So we take half of 26, which is 13. And then we can literally add these together to get 15%. We add these together, and that's 39. So that means her coupon is going to save her $39. Okay? Number 3, last season, Bob's team won 75% of their baseball games. If they played 19 games in all, approximately how many games did they win? Okay, so this one is a little bit different because we have our 19 here and we have this big number 75. Okay, so there's a bunch of different ways you can do this. But the first thing we want to do is take the 19 and round it up to 20 games. Okay. Now, most students at this point will find 25% and then use the 25% to get to 75%. So watch how I do this. I'm going to say 50% of 20 is 10. 25% is half of that, which is 5. And now if I add these together, I get 15. Now, just so you know, the other thing that you can do is if they won 75, you could essentially say that 100% of their games is about 20. The 25% that we found is about 5. So we could subtract them to get 15. So I just want you to keep that in mind. If you have a high percentage, you don't always have to add things on to get there. You could subtract things off. Okay? So then our answer here is 15 games. We write it outside and we box it in. Number 4, 5 of the 30 students, 5 of the 30 students invited to a party were not able to attend. Estimate what percent of the students who were invited could not attend. Okay, so 5 out of 30 could not attend. The problem is, if we're trying to figure out what percents are out of 100, okay? And if we're trying to go from 30 to 100, that's not a nice scale factor. So this is where the estimating piece comes in, and there's a bunch of different things that we can do, okay? The easiest thing, I think, is to estimate the 30, round it down to 25, okay? So there's our rounding. Now, to get up to 100, I use a scale factor of 4. So I have to do 5 times 4, which is 20. 20 out of 100 is 20%. So that is our estimate. Okay. So this problem was a little bit different because we estimated the percent. For all the other ones, we were given the percent. All right. And number 5, last one, Mr. Woods received a $78 discount for paying a bill early. If the discount is 10% of his bill, estimate the total. Okay, so this is what we have to realize. First, we're going to take the 78 and we're going to round it again to make a nice number. So I'm going to round it up to 80. But for this problem, this discount is 10% of the bill. So that what we're doing there is we're saying 80 is 10%. We need to figure out the total bill, which is going to be 100%. This is essentially a scale factor of 10. So we're going to multiply 80 times 10, and we're going to end up with 800. So the original bill was approximately $800. And then his 10% off was $80 or $78, pretty close. Okay? All right, so make sure you have all this in your packet. If you have any questions, definitely give us shoot us an email or go on to the math support page and ask your questions and get some help, guys, okay? Don't just sit not knowing what you're doing. All right? Okay, everyone. Thanks so much for watching the video. Bye-bye.